Celeste is a masterpiece of a game. It has an amazing 8-bit art style and an incredible story. And I'm not talking about an ordinary Mario story, but a story that tells you that you can be whoever you want to be. And it is simply a game of its times. But it's also really difficult. And so I challenged myself to beat Celeste, one of the hardest games of all time, in under 24 hours. And so here are the rules. I start on August 23rd at 5:07 p.m. And I stop playing on August 24th at 7:05 p.m. My main goals were to beat all 7 chapters, beat Pico 8, and beat Chapter 8. Of course, if I don't beat Chapter 8, then that still counts as a win. And of course, I won't be allowing myself to use Assist Mode, which Assist Mode gives you infinite dashes, invincibility, and unlimited stamina. And as you can see from this footage, I'm not a speedrunner or good at this game. Alright, the biggest thing about this challenge is I need to name my save file. And as you can see, I deleted my main save file from the channel. So we need to name something that is going to symbolize this whole challenge. Yes, I have the brain of a 5-year-old. And with that, it begins. I now have less than 24 hours to beat the game. The prologue went as simple as you expected. I mean, come on, it's the prologue. And you know it's important when the game literally tells me to quit the game. Chapter 1 was as easy as you expected. I wasn't going to grab any strawberries since they're not needed to beat the game. However, I was wasting time trying to grab the crystal hearts and B-side cassette tapes. But we'll talk about why I need those later. I didn't grab the crystal heart in Chapter 1, but I did grab the B-side cassette. But immediately there was a major problem. My controller was on low battery. For some reason, I didn't charge it before this challenge. But that's okay, it's not like that would matter later. And quickly, Chapter 1 was already done. On to Chapter 2. And once again, it was really easy. I'm sorry that I'm not talking much about the first 2 chapters because they're really basic easy. Once again, I made sure to grab the B-side cassette tape. But it's all worth it when you hear Badline call you Poophead. It's just really funny when they call you Poophead. The Badline chase wasn't as hard as always. And boom, Chapter 2 is get the timer out of the way, me. But the difficulty started to ramp up as soon as we got into Chapter 3. I immediately cheesed this part to get the key way easier. Ooh, I got it. I still got it. Okay, take that. Like I said, the difficulty started to really ramp up in this chapter. I mean, look at this room. I can show you how many times I died in this simple room. But then you have this part, where it took me really long to complete. You see, you have 3 paths to take, and each one of them ends with a big button that I have to slam, and that removes a bunch of these book blocks. The problem is that each one of these takes so long to do. Times that by the so many deaths I had, and you have a completely long chapter. And by the way, this is just the 3rd chapter out of 7. Anyways, Chapter 3 is also home to Pico 8, which I immediately started up. In case you never played this, Pico 8 is a little side game, which is basically Celeste, but 8-bit. But it's way harder since you can't cling onto walls. Yeah, it only took me 10 minutes to beat it, so hey, that's one of our objectives done already. Enough talk about the side game, let's get back to the main game. The 3rd and final path took really long to do, considering I kept dying so much! Oh, and remember when I said my controller was on low battery? Yeah, my controller died, but no matter. I had a Wii remote and nunchuck right next to me. Trying to play with a Wii remote and a nunchuck is so hard, since B is jump and A is dash. But hey, I grabbed the B-side cassette tape. That's something, right? After this room took like a bajillion deaths, we're on to the chase with the guy whose name I don't know right now. This chase wasn't necessarily hard, it was just the Wii remote and nunchuck giving me problems. I did it. Chapter 3 is complete. And we almost hit an hour. Now it was time for Chapter 4, aka the Wind Chapter. This chapter has so many rooms with wind in it that's really hard to get around, especially with a Wii remote and a nunchuck. But hey, I quickly grabbed the Chapter 4 B-side cassette tape, and then it was back to more wind. There was so much wind that I ended up cheesing one room. But then, it was time for... Wait. Freaking Mario 3 reference. So after grabbing my first crystal heart, you know what it was time for? Yep. Not more wind, but these rooms with blocks in them. I don't know how to explain these blocks, but they're blocks, okay? And then it was back to more wind. I took quite a while on this room with the block, mainly because everything has to be perfect. And combine the blocks that need to be perfect with wind, and you have a recipe for disaster and rage. Now, if you know me, I normally don't get mad at games. Unless it's Mega Man Pacifist.
Die for the third time in the same spot. They even gain points.
But after a whole lot of deaths, I was finally able to end the chapter.
Yes.
And that's the end. And guess what, guys? We just hit the 1 hour mark. Yes, 4 chapters done, and I was only an hour in. This is gonna be easy. And then the game immediately told me to take a break. Chapter 5 was the most unique chapter yet, with these blocks that only move when you're dashing. But I swear, this chapter goes on forever. Especially when you keep dying in the same spot. But hey, nothing can stop Poophead the mountain climber. I got the B-side cassette for this chapter, and then took multiple deaths in this room, considering that I was right there at the end. I then had a break from playing as Poophead to playing as this weird monster thing that ended up eating Poophead. And my god, does this chapter look unique now. And at this point, I think I was slowly going insane. Where is my little Kiwi? Where did it go? Where did my little Kiwi? Where did it go? I think this just symbolizes that either the game is really calm but also difficult, or making me think about valuable life choices, like, why am I doing this challenge in the first place? For views? To get recognition? Or heck, just to have a bit of fun. But hey, we finally found my boy Theo. And then we had this section where we need to carry him to the end of each room. And after having a dinner break, I decided to edit on this video a bit. When I got back to the game, I finally finished Chapter 5. And I just want to know, after 2.5 chapters, I can finally use my regular controller again. Chapter 6 is basically the calm before the storm. It's quite easy and quite relaxing. It's worth mentioning that I didn't get the B-side cassette tape here, but it's okay, because I might get the crystal hearts that I need in the chapters 1 through 5 B-sides. The boss fight against Battleline is quite really interesting since, well, there's no boss fights in this game except this, and it's really unique. But that being said, it's just as normal as a normal playthrough.
Did you favor? What did you do? You are no, I'm Poo-Poo Head the mountain climber. I'm just trying to help you. No, you aren't. I don't care what you have to say. You literally try and crush me.
That funny moment aside, the rest of the fight is really easy. Well, when you're not getting sniped.
Aww. Friendship. And now absorb her. We absorb her.
After getting the much-needed double dash, the chapter is basically over.
She's like an adorable goth poop head. My man Theo. She takes the bag off. It's like Captain Toad when he takes his bag off. He can finally jump.
So after watching a movie and going to sleep, I had 7 hours and 36 minutes left. But
Surely that's still enough time, right? It's now time to talk about Chapter 7, The Summit. Being the last main chapter of the game, it's gonna be quite long. But don't worry, since we have the Double Dash. And this chapter's gimmick is that all of its sections are basically stuff from previous chapters. So right here, this stuff is from Chapter 1. The Chapter 1 section wasn't that bad since, yes, again, we have the Double Dash. And since this is early in the day, I still have enough time to make a bunch of mistakes and still complete the chapter. The Chapter 2 section wasn't that bad since I love this weird jelly thing mechanic. And I think it's worth talking about how calm this chapter has been so far. I mean, I hadn't had a bunch of deaths so far, so that's good. But now the difficulty starts to ramp up with the Chapter 3 section. Just look at how many deaths I had in this room. But now it's time for the Chapter 4 section. Alright, as long as there's no wind in this one, we should be fine. And guess what happened 2 rooms later? No. No. Yep, wind. And how can I explain this? Yeah, that's how. I had a lot of deaths in this section, mainly due to stupid stuff and wind. But luckily, we get a little break with the Chapter 5 section. I still think anything to do with Chapter 5 is really unique, especially these blocks that move when you dash. But now, it's time for final section. You see, there's 30 checkpoints in this final section, and in order to complete a checkpoint, you just have to do a little challenge. And as you can see here, I couldn't grab the crystal heart. But you know it's really easy when some checkpoints are like 2 feet away from each other. Wait. That was like 2 feet away from the last checkpoint. That makes no sense. And by the time I reached the final few checkpoints, my neck was starting to hurt a bit. I don't know if this is from playing the game way too much, or by just looking at the TV for so long. But now, it's time for a final checkpoint. I did it. Yes, we actually did it. I did it. I did it. Played all 7 main chapters. But now it's not the time to celebrate. We still have to do Chapter 8. First up, I looked up a walkthrough of Chapter 1 and 2 to grab the crystal hearts. And then I decided to do Chapter 1 B-sides for that crystal heart. But now, I think it's time to finally talk about why I've been grabbing B-side cassette tapes and crystal hearts throughout the game. One of Celeste's main collectibles are the crystal hearts, which you get throughout finding them in each chapter, or by completing a B-sides. Why am I talking about this? Well, in order to actually start Chapter 8, you need to collect at least 4 crystal hearts. When I actually got the 4 crystal hearts, I can actually start Chapter 8 properly. And I just want to say, I love this chapter. The whole fire and ice mechanic is really cool. Pun not intended. It took me like 16 minutes to actually get through this chapter, which is quite quick. And with that, the challenge was over, with 6 hours and 18 minutes left. And that is everything. That is everything you have to do. Yes, every single thing. Definitely not missing anything. So, it's time to see how many deaths I actually had. So, I had 4 in Chapter 1, 67 in Chapter 1 B-side, 5 in Chapter 2, 67 in Chapter 3, 40 in Chapter 4, 58 in Chapter 5, 70 in Chapter 6, 93 in Chapter 7, and 47 in Chapter 8. Which that totals up to 451 deaths. And plus 1 strawberry that I accidentally collected in Chapter 5. So, do I recommend actually doing this challenge? Well, if you want your neck to hurt and you want to listen to Celeste music all day long, then yes. Do I plan to do any more of these beat game in under 24 hours challenges? Maybe. But for now, I'll see you guys later.